will be on the general election ballot despite an attempt to block her candidacy by an ally of current Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who is
a mayoral candidate being challenged. The saga surrounding embattled South.
Tiffany Henyard, the self-proclaimed super mayor of Dalton, has finally turned herself in after an FBI raid exposed years of corruption that had been hidden from the public. While Henyard lived a life of luxury, the town of Dalton sank into financial ruin, with residents struggling to make ends meet. Her extravagant lifestyle, funded by taxpayer money, is now crashing down as she faces up to 25 years in prison for her actions. Henyard's downfall is making headlines as she faces 22 federal charges, including misappropriation and concealment of millions in taxpayer funds. For months, the FBI had been tracking her activities following subpoenas and growing rumors of her misconduct. After gathering enough evidence, they moved in, uncovering a scandal of shocking proportions. Once hailed as an untouchable figure, Henyard is now facing the consequences of her corruption. Among the most egregious examples of her misuse of public funds was a lavish shopping spree in September 2023, where she spent $7,700 at stores like Target, Walgreens, and Wayfair, hardly the behavior expected from a public servant. But it didn't stop there. Henyard also refused to fly coach, opting instead for premium travel experiences, complete with a professional hair and makeup team. Meanwhile, the residents of Dalton were left to struggle as the town's finances crumbled. In just 1 year, Henyard's administration burned through over $112,000 in travel expenses, depleting the town's $5.6 million surplus and leaving Dalton with a staggering $36 million deficit. The financial collapse was swift and devastating. Her corruption didn't end with personal spending. She also used government funds to benefit her family, further draining the town's already struggling resources. One of the most shocking examples was a $561,000 payment for her mother's driveway, more than $500,000 for a single piece of pavement. Meanwhile, Dalton's police force was repurposed as Henyard's personal security detail, running errands for her while crime in the town went unchecked. Officers were assigned to follow her around like a VIP entourage rather than patrol the streets. Henyard's reign of excess and corruption came to an end when a former police chief who had witnessed the misuse of funds firsthand could no longer stay silent. The whistleblower exposed the full extent of Henyard's wrongdoing, finally revealing the truth about how taxpayer money was being squandered. As Henyard now faces justice, the residents of Dalton are left to pick up the pieces of the financial disaster she caused, betrayed by the very person they had elected to lead them. The tenure of Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard has been rocked by explosive allegations of misconduct and taxpayer fraud, with the latest revelations painting an unsettling picture of her time in office. Despite having her credit card privileges revoked, Henyard threw a lavish $55,000 party for the town, featuring performances by artists Wyatt and Jay Holiday, who were paid $30,000 and $20,000, respectively, for 30-minute sets. To make matters worse, Henyard spent an additional $36,000 on a sound system, staff equipment, comedians, and even bouncy houses that cost $6,600, all for an event that only about 70 people attended. Outrage among residents has been growing. Jennifer Roberts, a concerned citizen, voiced her frustration over the blatant misuse of taxpayer money. Former trustee Valeria Stubbs also condemned the event, calling it a wasteful self-promotion scheme. Henyard's apparent disregard for fiscal responsibility has only fueled public distrust, with both taxpayers and federal investigators closely monitoring her actions. However, the real twist came when Henyard's former ally and ex-right-hand woman, Carmen Carlisle, stepped forward with damning evidence. Carlisle had witnessed firsthand what she described as Henyard's misuse of Dalton funds over the course of 2 years. Initially silent, Carlisle became the key whistleblower, handing over a stack of receipts to federal authorities, shedding light on the mayor's schemes. Her testimony has been a bombshell, exposing the inner workings of Henyard's alleged fiscal mismanagement and her bold efforts to promote herself at the public's expense. The revelations only added fuel to the fire. Critics like Stubbs emphasized the stark contrast between Henyard's extravagant spending and the limited turnout at community events. Public outrage was palpable, with many demanding justice for the residents of Dalton, who had suffered as their town's finances crumbled under Henyard's administration. Despite the mounting criticism, Henyard showed no sign of slowing down, a move that many believe will only add fuel to the fire of this unfolding scandal. The FBI's investigation, now bolstered by Carlisle's first-hand account, has placed Henyard squarely in the spotlight. Federal authorities are scrutinizing every aspect of her administration, from her lavish lifestyle funded by taxpayer dollars to her extravagant trips and her personal security detail, which often resembled the entourage of a Hollywood celebrity. The investigation is also delving into her financial dealings, including her commercial ventures and campaign finances. The web of connections involving Henyard and her political allies is being thoroughly examined, with authorities casting a spotlight on everyone who may have had a hand in the alleged corruption. The people of Dalton have long demanded transparency and answers about unexplained expenses and questionable decisions made by Henyard. Activists like Brittany Norwood have been vocal in their criticism, amplifying the frustration of residents who have watched their town suffer under Henyard's administration. For these residents, the FBI's intervention feels like a long overdue response to their desperate pleas for assistance. However, many are left wondering why justice has been so slow in coming despite the mounting evidence and growing public outrage. Throughout the investigation, Henyard has maintained an image of business as usual, continuing to carry out her mayoral duties despite the mounting pressure and scrutiny. This defiance has only fueled public anger, as residents see her as increasingly disconnected from the reality of their struggles. Meanwhile, the FBI has reportedly been using advanced surveillance techniques to track potential wrongdoing, not just by Henyard but also by her political allies. As the investigation deepens, rumors have been circulating that several others with ties to Henyard may soon face similar scrutiny. The scale of the FBI's probe has sent shockwaves through Dalton, with residents who have long seen their town teeter on the edge of financial collapse now grappling with the very real possibility that many of the people they once trusted may have been complicit in this web of corruption. Yet, in a surreal turn of events, Henyard stunned the town when she voluntarily turned herself in to the FBI. One moment she was carrying on with her usual glamorous persona, seemingly unaffected by the growing storm of controversy, and the next, she was stepping into federal custody. The abruptness of her surrender shocked Dalton residents, leaving them to speculate about her motives. Why would Henyard abandon her opulent lifestyle and surrender so suddenly? Many believe that her decision may be part of a strategy to strike a deal with federal prosecutors. It is speculated that she could be offering to expose other individuals involved in her alleged schemes in exchange for leniency. If this is the case, it marks a dramatic shift in the scandal, as Henyard, once seen as untouchable, now faces the very real possibility of legal consequences. Her decision to surrender not only marks a turning point for her, but also signals a shift in the dynamic between Dalton's residents and their local government. Henyard's once untouchable image has been shattered, and her voluntary surrender has given the public a sense that, at least for now, there may be some semblance of justice on the horizon. As Henyard faces federal charges, the fallout from her actions continues to reverberate throughout Dalton. The town, already in a financial crisis, must now contend with the staggering cost of her alleged corruption and the deepening distrust in its leadership. Residents are left to pick up the pieces, wondering how they got to this point and what it will take to rebuild the town's shattered financial reputation. The saga of Henyard's rise and fall is far from over. Federal authorities continue to piece together the full extent of the alleged corruption, and with Carlisle's testimony and other evidence, it is clear that this investigation will have far-reaching consequences. As more details emerge, the people of Dalton are left hoping that justice will finally be served and that they will be able to rebuild from the wreckage left by Henyard's reckless spending and self-serving behavior. In the end, Henyard's scandal serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of holding public officials accountable. The people of Dalton have paid a heavy price for Henyard's actions, but her downfall may ultimately pave the way for a brighter, more transparent future for the town. Only time will tell whether the scandal will spark the changes needed to restore faith in Dalton's government, or if it will simply be another chapter in the town's troubled history.